comes again and bowls him! James Anderson has got his first wicket. Vermeulen's first Test innings in England ends for only one. 20 for 1 wicket to Zimbabwe in reply to England's 472. And a moment, James Anderson, if he gets 400 Test wickets, will never forget. At Lord's in your first Test match in your third over, and quite simply, I think that did just straighten after pitching. And Vermeulen was playing down the Bakerloo and it went down the Metropolitan.
So, Jimmy, who would have thought 30 odd years ago when you first picked up that shiny red ball that almost 30 years later, 187 Test matches, 700 scalps, that you'd be sat here in the house that Wicket's built, looking back on an illustrious career with the stepnephew of Sachin Tendulkar. Let's start at the beginning. Your formative years with Burnley. Now, I've done some research. I've delved deep. In the pre-season, 98-99, yeah, with Burnley in the nets, I've spoken to some of your teammates there. They said there was, in that first session in that season, you suddenly could bowl 50 miles per hour faster, yeah? All of a sudden, that first ball, he said, that first ball you delivered in the same style as the ones as your hat trick in the World Cup. Do you remember that feeling of, suddenly this is taking it up a level? A bit like, when Team Wolf recognises he's got the powers, or Spider-Man finds out that you just thought this is a bit of a game. Was there like a wow moment, like, oh my God, this is going to change the game?
I do remember being able to bowl quicker. I don't remember like the specific moment that happened, but like I remember before that I was like okay at batting, okay at bowling.
How old had you been then?
Like 14.
Yeah.
And then 15, I came back to winter pre-season nets, and it was in a school in Blackburn, and it was the surface was like rock hard. It's like a wooden floor, might have had like a mat on it, and yeah, it was coming out a lot quicker. And I don't really know why or how that happened, but yeah, it did.
It was like a sudden moment. You're like, oh, this is...
Yeah, like I was hurrying up players that, like some of the best players in the first team at Burnley. And I remember my best mate, David Brown, his dad, Peter. I can't remember what shot he played, but I remember the bat breaking. And I broke a couple of bats that winter. And I think, obviously I felt horrific because I was a young lad breaking these old lads' bats. But yeah, I felt like something different had happened. Yeah. But I can't put my finger on why. It's weird.
Yeah, but it is like getting a superpower. The people in the team must have been like, oh my God, have you seen, he's gone up a level. This is going to change things.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression everyone was, it excited people. Like I remember the captain at the time when we played, he'd just be like, just bowl as fast as you can. And because it was such a change in pace and my body was still developing, I was still like growing, I didn't really know where it was going. So I did bowl the odd beamer. I beamed Brad Hodge, who's an Australian batter who was playing for Ramsbottom. Beamed him and he sort of punched it off his face, and I can't repeat what he said. I was so apologetic. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just don't know where it's going. And he was like, off you little a couple of other memories from that were like I played at Burnley, and the first over of the game I bowled like 4 wides in a row, and I'm like, oh my God, this is painful. And then the next ball just went straight through the batter and bowled him. So that's how it sort of went for me. It was like a bit inconsistent and erratic, but
then when you did,
fun.
Yeah. Amazing. So I've been doing some research back on the streets of Burnley, right? Take me back to that day. It's a big moment for you. You've passed your test. You've got your first Fiat Bravo, okay? You go and visit your mate at university, you get into an argument, and you have to go and sleep in your Fiat Bravo, and you have to use towels as a makeshift curtains to stop the morning dawn from coming in. Tell me about that moment.
That's a random question and a slightly different route than I thought this interview would take. Yeah, I used to go. My mate went to Durham University, so I went to see him a few times while he was there. We just go and have a night out or whatever and catch up. So the situation was there was one spare bed in his dorm or whatever it was that where he stayed. And there's 2 of us that went up, 2 mates went up, so there's 3 of us all together. My other mate took the bed. Right. He got back before me and took the bed. Oh, so right. I tried to kick him out, And he was like, just sleep on the floor, I'm asleep. Like, I'm not moving. So then I stormed out and slept in my car.
Put towels
up. It doesn't sound as bad as you've made out there.
But you did put towels up.
I did, yeah. Made a little shelter.
I'm not a psychologist, but in many ways you could say, as your star has risen, you've kept those towels up to protect you from the glare of the media spotlight. Okay. We will move on from the Fredo Bravo, but before I do, you passed your test. Shortly after that, you totaled it, going over a bollard too fast in a Woolworths car park. Is that correct?
I don't remember that.
No, I have got that confirmed. Because I was going to... You don't remember totaling the car?
Who confirmed that? I'm not going
to
not revealing your sources.
It was Gaz.
I think I did go over a bollard in Woolworths car park, but I don't think it was written off.
All right, I was told it was written off because I was going to say, in many ways, the Woolworths bollard was a metaphorical father figure teaching you to slow down before life was about to get very fast.
Brilliant.
Do cry.
Will all these questions have a metaphorical ending?
Yes, they will.
I'll just say, Gaz is who you've gone to for information. He's like Jay off In Betweeners with his stories. So
right, okay.
Might be a little bit embellished.
Yeah. Okay, so then you start playing for Burnley. Then we get into the England team, all right? Close your eyes. Take me back to that first England call-up, 2002. You're 20 years old. Tony Blair is the Prime Minister. Craig David, Gareth Gates, Will Young are riding high in the charts. Interestingly, the biggest selling single of that year is Enrique Iglesias' Hero, which is pertinent, I think, because it was a difficult time for English cricket, and in many ways, your arrival, signify you could be their hero, baby, and you were about to kiss away those tears. Can you talk me through that first England call-up? Was it a surprise? Was it what? How did it take me through those emotions?
Okay, well, I just had my first season for Lancashire and did pretty well. Got 50 wickets in the Championship that season. Went on an academy trip to Australia with like a few of the other younger players that was sort of meant to be the next generation of English cricketers.
Can you remember who they were? Anyone?
On that trip was Alex Tudor,
nice,
Chris Tremlett, Monty Panesar.
Oh wow,
Darren Stevens, who was my roommate on that trip. Ricky Clark, quite a few that actually went on to play for England. Gareth Batty, Chris Reed. But basically, that trip to Australia, in the Test series, quite a lot of players got injured. So I think Darren Gough got injured. Simon Jones, obviously, it was his bad injury that he got then. So quite a few players
was that down to the coaching? Was it poor coaching or just bad luck? Yeah,
bad luck. Yeah. So it then got to a point where there was a one-day series, and they needed bowlers basically. And I've been bowling okay. I've heard Nasser Hussain, who was England captain at the time, say it was his dad who would see me play Championship cricket that summer, who said he might be worth a look at, sort of thing. So basically, I got drafted in. Got a phone call from the team manager at the time of the academy, and said England want you to join up with them in Sydney, I think it was. So packed my bags and.
Were you nervous or?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course I was nervous because I'd watched all these players on TV and so many questions go through your head like, am I ready for this and stuff like that. But also I was thinking quite sort of in reality, am I going to play? I'm just going to be there just in case.
Yeah,
there's a chance that I won't play. I'll just try and get some experience from being around the team. And then so I didn't play the first game in Sydney, and then we went to the MCG in Melbourne and played that game. I got told I was playing the day before by Nasser. Immediate sweaty palms and nerves and butterflies and all that sort of thing started kicking in because we'd been told on the field when you've got this huge stadium. I was just like,
oh my god.
Yeah.
Were you thinking like just gonna get through it, or were you thinking I'm just gonna grab this by the balls? I'm gonna make myself undroppable? What was it?
No, I was thinking I'm just gonna enjoy this while I'm here because it's not gonna last very long.
Really?
Like it might last a week, 2 weeks. I might never play again, so I'm just going to try and enjoy it as much as possible. And then played the game. I didn't have a number or name on the back of my shirt because it was, things have moved along that quickly.
Yeah, I wonder who would have had number 9 then. But
might have been Alex Stewart.
I was
I've not
gonna-
used them before.
I was going to ask that. So walking into that change room for the first time with Nasser and Alex Stewart, what is that environment like? Was it a welcoming environment, or was it step up or off sort of?
I'd say it was like some of the guys were quite really welcoming, really tried to make you feel comfortable and at home. Other guys maybe less so, just sort of looking at me thinking, who's this young kid? Never heard of him.
Yeah,
What's he doing here? But also England at that point weren't
weren't great.
doing particularly well. So I think
You could be their hero.
everyone was sort of in their own little world trying to just make sure that they played well enough to stay in the team. It wasn't
Yeah.
like there was a great team ethos or environment
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
able to win games.
Because I'm quite interested in that. Like in any sports at any level, the environment and ethos of the change room can like have a big impact on the success of the team. So if it's like too laid back or too pally, then it can be a bit lazy on the pitch. But also if it's too intense and aggressive, that some people might kind of shrink in that environment. Over the years, what do you think has been the best change rooms that you've been involved in terms of like getting that balance right?
Well, just on that first one that I went into, like Nasser was quite intense as a captain. He was, you know, a lot of people didn't like the way he went about things, but for me as a 20-year-old, I was like, I needed that sort of firmness, that instruction, and not necessarily pressure, but just he would really tell you what was demanded of you,
Yeah.
and I needed that, and it really helped me, I think, in the first part of my career.
So you prefer that to rather than like an arm around the shoulder kind of. Oh,
Well, I did at that point.
yeah.
Yeah, but he was good at both. Like with me in particular, he was good. Like there was a game in the World Cup in 2003 where he gave me the penultimate over, I think, either the last over of the innings or penultimate over. When Andy Caddick, who was a senior bowler at the time, had another over left, so he could have gone to him, but he went to me, and I got smashed by Andy Bickle into the stands for 6, and we lost the game. But he then put his arm around me after and was like, you know, I hope that you take the sort of positive from that I've gone to you rather than a senior bowler, because I thought you'd be able to cope with that pressure. So that did actually give me a lot of confidence.
Oh, nice. Because I've spoken to other England players through tailenders, and they said some of the, especially like the 2006, 2007 changing room was quite brutal, quite, I don't want to say toxic, but it was quite difficult place for some players to come into. It must be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, after 2005 obviously was unbelievable, that Ashes series, and I guess they were just so well knit together. It was hard for people from the outside to come in, but then it was more, I'd say, after that 2005 Ashes, things did start to go slightly wrong in terms of people getting injured. Like Michael Vaughan got injured, Simon Jones got injured again. So two massive players in that 2005 Ashes. Before the 6-7 Ashes, they were sort of struggling with injuries a little bit. So that didn't help going there. And I think the confidence just started to wane a little bit.
Do you think is there a massive difference between the kind of change room environment now that you see, like how things are fostered in the change room, like in terms of mental health or whatever, to how it was back then, or is it not been huge changes?
Well, that's a different sort of question, a different point, because obviously now certainly from my point of view, when a young guy comes into the team, I feel like it's important that everyone in that group tries to make them feel welcome, feel comfortable, and stuff like that. But in terms of the mental health stuff, that's, you know, the awareness of that's gone through the roof. So, you know, everyone's conscious of that and making sure that everyone is okay and talking if they need to, or have got people to talk to if they need to. So it's very different to what it was 20 years ago.
You've played under 12 different captains under your tenure. Can you name them? But to be fair, there's 4 of these that are stand-ins. So if you could just get
Test cricket.
Just Test cricket. Yes. I think
Nasser.
So. Yeah.
Michael Vaughan.
Yes.
Strauss.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Root.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yeah.
Get the obvious ones out of the way. Vaughan. Did I say him?
You said Vaughan.
Sorry. Peterson.
Yes.
Flintoff.
Nice.
How many is that?
That's all of them. Yeah. There was a couple of
That's
stand-ins.
not 12, is it?
Well, no, but you had some stand-ins. Do you want names? Can you name the stand-ins? That'd be double points if you get that.
Standing captains.
Yeah.
Trescothick.
Yeah. One quite close to you.
Broad.
And then there was Butler and Morgan.
Oh,
But that was for ODIs, I think, for Morgan. Of those captains, I was going to ask you to say like a word or a sentence that would sum them up. Probably too many, isn't there? But like, is any of those captains that you could highlight would be having the most impact on your career?
Well, to be honest, I know I've just spoken a bit about him, but Nasser probably had the biggest influence just because of the stage of my career that I was at when I played under him. I guess Strauss was we had the most success under as a team. Got to world number 1, won the Ashes in Australia, beat India in India. I guess I don't know whether that was down to his captaincy really, or just the group of players that we had. Probably more so the group of players we had. We had more like loads of captains within that team, loads of senior players who played 50, 60 tests, which helped. But yeah, I don't know if captains really influence you in that way anymore. It's not. I guess Stokes is probably a good one to talk about because the way he wants to play. And like,
he's very different to the traditional captain.
Yeah, he's more laid back, more positive, aggressive on the field, but very laid back off it.
So you started playing for England regularly. You're loving life. When I'm in the pub and people find out that me and you are BFFs, often what they'll say is, when they're talking about your career, they'll go, "Core, what about when they tried to change his action mind?" And then I go, "Oh yeah, that was terrible." But I didn't really know what that meant. And then because we got to know each other, I've never really had the chance to say, I sort of get it. They try to change the way you bowl.
Yeah.
But obviously, the fact that so many people brought it up to me when they know that we're mates, that it must be quite a significant part of your career. Can you take me back to how that happened? What it is, how it happened, and how you kind of got through that bit?
So the gist of it is that they thought that I was going to get injured bowling with the action that I had, and they also thought that I could bowl quicker, even though I was bowling like 90 miles an hour when I first came into the team.
Well, they wanted you faster than that.
They reckon they could have got like me up to 95 if I just changed my action a little bit.
What, your run up or your?
No, the actual action at the crease. Yeah.
Right.
I think I did change my run up as well at one point. Because I've always had quite a short run up for a fast bowler, but they tried to make it a bit longer just because like the faster bowlers in the world, like Shoaib Akhtar at the time and Brett Lee, had really long run ups, like on the 30-yard circle or outside it even, and they'd run in for miles and bowl quick. So they tried to lengthen mine a bit.
And when you say they, is that the whole coaching team, or is that one specific coach, or is that
Duncan Fletcher, the coach at the time, wanted quick bowlers. Not all he was interested in, but he just wanted people to bowl quick. And then Troy Cooley, who was the bowling coach at the time, he was very much into biomechanics. And so I remember a session at Loughborough where we'd get these dots put on us, and these cameras would film us bowling, and then you'd get
I've seen that in Lord of the Rings when they get the green screen stuff.
It's not the...
Okay. So, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but similar to Lord of the Rings. If that helps you understand it, then great. But yeah, it was like, so you could see what your spine was doing and what your bones were doing, or basically the mechanics of your action. And my spine was like an S shape, so they were like, right, you're gonna get injured, so we need to change that. But then I changed it, and because like I was probably 23 at the time, 24, something like that, because I bowled with that action for my whole life, I actually think that the changing of it...
Were they trying to change it to get you faster, or were they trying to change it to stop you getting injured?
Both.
Were you silent, or were you silent? No. Were you... Yeah, so they were trying to get you faster and prevent injury.
Yeah. But then I got injured after changing my action. Like, my bowling went really. I didn't bowl great for probably 12 months.
Straight after that period?
Yeah. Was in and out of the team a bit.
Did you say to them at the time, were you like, just because you changed my action?
I didn't really. I thought they were, they were doing it out of, it wasn't out them trying to damage me. They're trying to do it for the best of, for me and for the team. And I probably didn't really understand at that time that it was that had caused it.
You just thought it was bad form?
Well, I just thought I needed to work harder, get fitter and whatever. But then the best thing that happened was getting injured. So I got a stress fracture in my back. Was out for 6 months probably. Was in a corset for 6 weeks. So I couldn't move my back, which was fun. But then, like, through that time, Daniela was amazing. She sort of, I was at the point where I was like, I don't know if I can ever play again.
Really?
I don't think I'm good enough to play at that level. I think just because you get down on yourself because you're injured, but then she was just like,
also back injuries. I had sciatica once. It's awful, isn't it? Because I guess you're in bed a lot. So it was Daniela that kind of coached you back into.
Well, she just said, snap out of it. You're definitely good enough. You should, just basically help me through that period. And then when I got fit again, I went to Mike Watkinson, who actually taught me to swing the ball at Lancs. He was second team coach, and then he was head coach once I got injured, or after I got injured, with him and Kevin Shine, who was then the England bowling coach. They sort of said, you should go back to your old action. Went back to my old action, and then
rest is history.
Kind of, yeah.
Did you think that through that period you were like, I should be going back to it all the time? Was it noticeable that you weren't bowling because you weren't bowling as well? You like, just let me get back to my. Were you telling the Duncan Fletcher, just let me do my?
No, like I said, I was young. I thought, they knew best. I've got to do what they say because that's going to help me get better. So yeah, I was just following their instruction, and as I said, didn't know any better at the time.
You change your action back. You're doing great. You're back in England. Was there a game that you felt that solidified you as an England starter, that one where you thought going in you're not too sure, but then after you're like, boom, send your contract sorted for another year?
Well, there's one game, so a tour of New Zealand, I think it was 2008, Harmison and Hoggard played the first test, and I went off to play for Auckland in a first class game. And then the second test, Harmison and Hoggard got dropped and me and Brody came in. Peter Moores was coach at the time. And I think that sort of confidence that you get from someone giving you responsibility to take the new ball, and you're replacing two guys that have been the mainstay for England for like 4 or 5 years, with huge part of that Ashes win in 2005. So that then, I guess there was pressure that came with that, but also I think confidence, from that responsibility. And then I got 5 wickets in that game. And I guess all I did from there was really try and keep improving, like every time, like never feel like I've cracked it. Yeah. And just, there's only one way you can keep being successful, I think, and that's to constantly improve, not just think, I've had a good game, so I'll just keep trying to do the same thing.
Yeah. So that was the start of the sort of Broad Anderson dynasty.
Yeah, a little bit. Like we played together in the 2007 World Cup. That was the first time we played together. And I think the first few years was a little bit of competition. Like we weren't best mates then.
Right.
I was mates with Alistair Cook and Graham Swan. He was mates with like Matt Pryor, a couple of others. So it wasn't like we were. Yeah. We spent a decent amount of time together, but we just weren't as close as we are now, basically. And I think there was a little bit of competition at the time because we were sort of vying for the same spot. But then as time went on, the more we played together, the more we realised that we actually could help each other, bounced off each other, very different bowlers, and we tried to help each other on the field as well. I knew that if he bowled well, that would bring me more into the game and vice versa. So, I think he'd say the same thing. Like, without him playing, I don't think I'd have got the same amount of wickets.
Yeah.
Like, we definitely
same for him,
helped each other on the field, yeah.
Is there a wicket that kind of means the most to you? Not necessarily your favourite, but one that you felt was like the biggest in your career? One suggestion was it would be Haddin at the end of the first test in 2013.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing that came into my head, that really? Game. That whole game was probably the best game that I've played for England, I think, just because of it being an Ashes test match, close nature of the game. I think I bowled a 13-over spell on that last day, trying to bowl them out. So yeah, I think that's the best I've bowled. Like, I used all the skills I could possibly think of, everything that I had in my armoury. I just tried to throw at Australia that day, and it paid off. And then had in the last wicket, it was a off cutter that sort of, I didn't actually hear the nick as well, but I think Cookie and Matt Pryor behind the stumps heard it, and then the umpire gave it not out. We had to review it, and then obviously seeing it on the big screen. But saying that, I actually asked Haddin, like when the umpire then signals review, I like looked at him and was like, "Did you hit that?" He's like, "Yeah." So we knew that he was going to be given out. But still, there's still that moment that the decision comes up on the big screen, or the umpire puts his finger up. It's just incredible. And there's a great photo of us, all 11 of us, just like starting to charge off we're like a flock of geese, like starting to run around the ground. It was amazing. So I think, like, for me, the wickets that matter are the ones where you influence games, and I got 10 wickets in that game, which is, you know, contributing to a win like that is the best feeling. Yeah.
So you put so much work in over the years in evolving your game and evolving your technique, changing your styles, developing new deliveries. Now you're reaching the end of your career. Is there a particular skill that you think has given you an extra edge that maybe you didn't have at the start of your career? That was also from Gaz, that question.
What, a bowling skill?
Yeah, bowling, like a technique or a...
I mean, the thing about bowl, like in Test cricket, when you've got to bowl in so many different conditions all around the world, you need so many different skills, and I've just tried to develop as many as I can over the years. And
there's not one that kind of stands out as a...
Well, I think the biggest one that helped me was being able to bowl an in-swinger to a right-hander, out-swinger to a left-hander. So my record when I couldn't bowl that to left-handers is really poor. Like, I had quite a high average. All I could do was swing it back into them. And they just sort of got used to that. Left-handers actually quite like that.
Right. When was that? When did you start developing that?
It'd be similar to that New Zealand tour, like 2008. But I started learning the in-swinger, and it took me about 4 years to feel confident to bowl it in the game.
Well, so you were just practicing that all the time in the nets?
Yeah.
And then
it just gave me a completely different sort of approach to bowling at left-handers in particular. Like, bowling around the wicket, being able to take it away from them.
It adds a completely different dimension.
Completely different dimension, and that helped my game massively, yeah.
Jimmy, your relationship with the media, how has it changed over the years? Do you think they've been fair to you, and now you're kind of stepping in, seeing it from the other side?
I've always tried to not read a lot, which is it's difficult because.
Did you in your earlier days? Did you read everything?
No, not at all. I did get into a good habit of, from an early age, of not reading stuff whether you've had a good game or a bad game, because there's only one person that knows if you've had a good game or a bad game. That's you. Like, I'm my harshest critic, so even if I have a good game, I'll be looking at what I can improve for the next game. And in all fairness to there's some great writers out there in the media, great pundits, but you know, the majority haven't played at that level and don't understand it, and there's only one person that can improve you. So I've just tried to ignore it. But then obviously there's people, not naming names, but like you'll definitely no, there's like mates that have sent me stuff in the past that like, oh, have you seen this guy, what this guy said about you? And
but if it's,
and you've done that to me before as well, actually.
Have I? Sorry about that, mate.
Have you seen what he's written?
Well, so would you accept more criticism if it's Atherton or someone? I don't guess.
No, I don't. What I mean is, like, I like reading some pieces, but if it's about me, I won't. Yeah, because I know whether I've had a good game or a bad game. You know, I know if I've had a good career or a bad career. Yeah. You know, I don't need other people telling me.
Moving on to your family, getting to know you over the years, I'm amazed that, like, the amount of people that come up and say how much you mean to them, how great you are. You've had, like, the cricket community gushing over you, what impact you have. You are distractingly handsome. Yet, knowing you privately, you're very grounded. You're very shy. Do you think that's largely down to your friends and family growing up? You've kind of stuck with the same group of mates.
Yeah, I think that helps. Yeah, my mum and dad are very, quite quiet people, quite shy. I've got a really good group of mates that I can rely on and have done over the years. And then since being married as well, Daniela's exactly the same. Like, lots of people's partners can put too much pressure on. Like, I've seen it happen in the past, or they get to a point where they're like, right, that's enough of cricket now, enough of you touring and stuff, and sort of encourage them to give it up. So I think I've been so lucky that she's really encouraged me to keep going. She's put with me when I've been away on tour, and especially I remember when the kids were young, you'd come back and she'd get into a routine. I'd come and wreck it when I got home because I didn't know what was going on. So I think that's been, she's been amazing in that respect. And
yeah, I was going to say how difficult that must have been going away, especially when the kids were. I know how close you are to Ruby and Lola. Like when you're going away for those long periods when you first started, well, when you were first born, that must have been incredibly difficult getting used to that.
Yeah, I've missed quite a lot of their lives, missed a lot of birthdays and stuff being away. But I guess that's just part of the job. Like we've got a nice life because of cricket, so I think they get that now. They're a lot older. They understand that. They've loved coming and watch me since they sort of understand it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a huge advantage of them being able to see you play when they get older now, and they've been able to come to the games, and they love it so much, so they kind of understand it more.
Yeah, they've been again great supporters since once they were old enough to sort of understand what I do, and more recently they've got into the game as well. They've played at school, asked me to go in the garden and throw some balls at them and stuff. So I've really enjoyed that side of it. But yeah, there were difficult times. I was fortunate enough to be at both of their births. Like that, that's something I didn't want to miss. For Ruby's, I flew back from the Ashes in 2010 for 3 days, and then flew back. So I was lucky enough to be able to do that in between games. But I think they understand like that is the nature of the job. Like we do go on long tours and stuff like that. But I certainly wouldn't change anything just because it's given me the best life. Like I've loved every minute of it. We've talked about playing at Burnley as a kid, and back then when I was watching England on TV, it was an absolute dream to think that I could play professionally. So to be able to do it for as long as I have, I'm delighted.
Let's talk Tailenders. What does it mean to you? Do you think it's changed your public persona somewhat as people have gotten to know the real you through kind of, obviously the podcast are longer, so it's not just little sound bites after a game? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I've not really thought about that. Maybe you have to ask people that listen.
Okay,
it's hard for me to answer that one. I've loved doing Tailenders. I think it definitely made me fall back in love with the game, because it did at some points in my life. It has become just a job, and you're like, some days you turn up when it's raining and the covers are on. You're like, I'm not actually that bothered if the covers are on. Right. Quite happily just sit in the dressing room, because it is. There are days, I'm sure everyone gets it when they're at work and they're like, it becomes a bit much. So I think that seeing firstly how much Felix and Greg love cricket, their passion for the sport, listening to them talk about it so brilliantly every week has been great, and seeing you fall in love with it as well. From someone who didn't know anything about cricket to actually liking it a lot is amazing. So I can put up with the sort of badgery questions that I get from them, but yeah, it's been great. I've loved it.
The future, Jimmy Anderson. What does it look like? Paint me a picture.
I honestly don't really know right now. I think, I do. I love talking about the game. I love talking about bowling and sort of delving into the sort of technical side of it. Obviously, I've done a bit of punditry on TV and on the radio, so maybe a balance between that and a bit of coaching or mentoring and stuff. I think having played for so long, I feel like I have got knowledge to be able to help other people in their careers. So I'd love to be able to offer that if I could. But right now,
done a bit Strictly.
Well,
you've not said no.
I don't think so. Not in the near future anyway. Okay. That's not for me. But I think I'd love to have a bit of time just to, because I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. It's weird. It's a weird feeling when you've done something for 20 years and then all of a sudden you've got to find something else to do. So I'd like a bit of time just to try a few things and see if something sticks.
Yeah, it is really interesting that, because obviously you've done it for so long. Have you, obviously Broadie's just retired, so he knows a little bit Soccer Aid, whatnot. Have you spoken to other people that have been retired longer and kind of sought their advice about what to do next, really, and so you can...
Yeah, well, obviously I've spoken to Brodie quite a bit, because he is recently retired. He's had a year or so out of the game now, and he's actually he's saying he's loving life. So, trying different things, all those things that you can't do when you play cricket, playing five-a-side on a Monday night and stuff like that. That's something I definitely want to do. Play a little bit more of other sports. Golf, paddle, tennis, whatever, really. I'm just going to try and enjoy myself. But yeah, I don't know. I will keep talking to people. I did. So we went to see a school for my eldest daughter for sixth form the other day, and there was a careers advisor there, and I did wonder about asking him a question or two. I know you're helping kids here, but
what can I do?
Yeah.
In terms of, you mentioned you might do some coaching in the future. What do you think now that money is being filtered more into short form game of your IPLs and your T20s? Do you think would you have that kind of responsibility to identify the next Broad or Anderson and nurture him or her through a world which is going to be steering them towards more of a kind of short form game?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing, I wouldn't say the dangers of franchise cricket, but the effect that's having on red ball cricket and then potentially Test cricket. Bowlers in particular, fast bowlers, are looking at less chance of getting injured, more money for less work, that sort of thing. You see more of them doing the sort of rounds in franchise cricket rather than playing for the counties and trying to make it into the England Test team. So I think that's something, part of the reason why the Test team have been playing the way they have recently is trying to entertain and encourage people, show people that it is fun to play Test cricket. So yeah, I feel like I've had that responsibility for the last 20 years to try and be a good example and trying to encourage people to move into that sort of career. And I don't see that stopping once I stop. I think I'll want to keep encouraging players to, Test cricket is hard. Like there's a lot of bowling. It does take its toll on your body and mentally as well. But there's no better feeling that you don't get that buzz playing other forms of cricket. I don't think when you win a Test match, it's just there's no other feeling like it. So I think it's trying to just encourage people to do that. And I think there'll be other things that need to happen. I think the money will have to change. You have to incentivize it maybe a bit more to try and encourage people to play it because of the amounts of money that are being thrown at people in franchise cricket. But I feel at the moment there's still enough love around the world for Test cricket. You see players like Kohli, Steve Smith, the best players in the world championing Test cricket. Stokes obviously is doing that. He's not been to the T20 World Cup because he's focusing on Test cricket. So I think as long as there's those sorts of people, those icons that are championing Test cricket, then hopefully it will be okay.
Almost wrapping things up now. I was just going to talk to you about the final Test. Obviously, I guess you'll try and treat it just like any other game, but it must be playing on your mind a bit. But being your final Test, how are you feeling about it? How are you preparing for it?
I honestly don't know how I feel about it right now. I think it's been a weird few weeks where I've done a few like appearances and stuff like that where people are coming up to me saying we've got tickets and we're looking forward to it, sort of thing. And I honestly don't know how I feel. I don't know how I'll feel until I actually get there and playing it. I think I'm just going to prepare for it as I'd prepare for any Test match. I've got a Lancashire game first, so yeah, I'll just
take it as it comes.
Try and play well, really.
Cheers. Obviously, you've achieved so much over the years. I don't want to be a negative spin on this, but is there anything you didn't do or didn't achieve that you wish you had done? Anything that stands out?
Well, just for bragging rights in the pub, I wish I'd have got a Test hat-trick because Broadie bangs on about his 2 quite a lot, so he'll always have that on me. I never got a Test 100 either, and I was so close at Trent Bridge. I thought I was getting one there, but unfortunately didn't make it. But no, I honestly, as that kid who played at Burnley, if you just said you're going to play a Test match and get a Test wicket, I'd have been absolutely buzzing with that. So to have got as many as I have, been involved in as many Test wins as I have, then it's just I can't really. It still doesn't really feel real. Feels
sat here.
Yeah, it feels strange, and I'm sure in years to come it'll sink in a little bit more. And when I look back at my career and what I've achieved, because I've never really sat down and thought about what games I've played in and wickets I've taken, I've always been thinking about the next game and the future. So I think, once I've finished playing, I'll have a bit of time on my hands.
I mean, even because in the last, ever since I've done Tailenders, people always said, "Oh, when's Jimmy going to retire? When's Jimmy going to like?" And you've always said, "Oh, let's just go do the next test." And next test, you've not really been that way to sit back and reflect over.
No, I just think. Well, we've mentioned it that I think if you start looking back at good performances or resting on what you've achieved already, then standing still just doesn't work. You've got to keep trying to improve, and even the good games that I've played, I've always found some, not negative, but like something that I can work on and improve on, and that's what I've always tried to do. So I've not really sat back and watched all my wickets or watched games that we've won.
We should do that. Maybe we should do that in this, because for the benefit's sake, we're on a lovely sofa, nice TV. Maybe we should get Felix and Greg round and just do like a best of. Just sit here and watch.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
I love that.
A couple of quick fire questions. Who's the best batter you faced, do you think, over the years?
I mean, I have been asked this quite a lot, and it's such a hard question to answer because, so like for example, at the start of my career, I bowled at Gilchrist and Hayden in my first game actually. And I was like, I can't, they're way too good. I can't even, I've got nothing. So, those two were always right up there, especially in white ball cricket. I've always struggled against like really aggressive batters. So Sehwag was one who always tried to get 100 before lunch in India in particular. So yeah, people like that, I don't know really.
Tendulkar's been a bit of a breeze for you, hasn't he?
Well,
caused no problems.
There were times when I thought, I can't bowl at him, he's too good. And then there were other times where I just managed to get the better of him. That's just the way it is. Similar to Kohli, like there was a series where I felt like I could get him out every ball. In other series, I felt like I'm never going to get him out. I could bowl 1,000 balls at him and I wouldn't get him out. But yeah, in 20 odd years, I've bowled at quite a lot of people, so it's difficult to single one person out. And obviously some people, like Steve Smith, he played in 2010-11, batted at 7 and didn't really get any runs, and then he comes back 2 or 3 years later and he's a completely different player and averages 60. So
over the years, if you could build a sort of Frankenstein fast bowler of all the different attributes, picking out like accuracy, intelligence, action, what would you pick?
McGrath's accuracy, Staines' wrist position. Do you know his action I always loved? And this is, from being a Lancashire fan, Wasim Akram I thought was just an insane bowler. Swung it both ways, reversed it unbelievably well. The famous story of him bowling in trainers at Old Trafford in one game. He came out after tea not expecting to bowl, so he just wore some trainers, didn't have spikes on. And then they said, "Do you fancy a bowl?" He's like, "All right," and got 6 wickets. Bowling in pumps. His swing, I think his ability to swing it. Stain was like just incredible. Pat Cummins' action, I really like. Nice. I think he's someone actually trying, like, so we played a test match in Galle in Sri Lanka, and I was feeling really stiff just after lunch, and I was bowling, and Mark Wood was at mid off, and I said, I'm gonna copy Pat Cummins' action now, try and bowl like him, and I got a wicket like in that over. And he's like, "Oh my God, you should bowl like Pat Cummins all the time."
What was that doing? In what kind of way?
It's just trying to I was basically trying to get more side on, and then he's got an amazing snap. He like gets the top of his action, and then everything just seems to go really quick. So when he bowls the ball, he just snaps through the crease. Because I was feeling stiff and a bit sluggish, I was trying to just recreate that sort of speed and snap.
Favourite ground?
Well, Old Trafford, obviously, being my home ground, being a ground I went to as a kid and supported Lancashire, being able to play there has been incredible. But I've not really bowled well there for England, which has been frustrating. Trent Bridge, I love. Lords, I love as well. So it's hard to sort of differentiate or pick between those.